guys, welcome into a last Epoch Spellblade guide. Real quick, just a reminder to like, share, and comment down below if these videos do help you out. This helps to let me know which direction to go and which videos you guys find helpful. To start off, this is a cold ward stacking Spellblade build that I have been using to level up. This is my first character in last Epoch, so I am still learning the game as well. But I've noticed players do have questions in chat quite a bit revolving Spellblade, and I have found this build to be very successful, so hopefully you guys can have some fun with it too. I'm not going to go too in-depth with the abilities of the skills. I'm just going to try to highlight some of the key passives, key abilities, rotation, and stuff, just so you guys can be successful with a similar build. This is my skill points in the mage tree. These are our passives. You'll see here that I focus mostly on the defensive passives: health, mana, resist, wards. Wards are very important for this build, and this is basically just to keep our survivability up, so that we can pull large amounts of mobs and be able to tank a lot of the boss mechanics. In the Spellblade tree, kind of split between defensive and elemental damages. A big focus on Flame Ward, our attack speed, our ward generation, our mana generation, which is also pretty important, and then just a lot of elemental damage as well. But the primary focus here is generating wards as quick as possible. That way we can negate a lot of the damage that we take. A key passive here is Gemini. This allows us to dual wield on our Spellblade, which becomes a little bit more important in the 50s and 60s and above, as we start to unlock swords that have really strong melee and spell damage combinations. This is not a necessary skill, though. You can run anything in your offhand and still be successful with this build. You just might have a little bit lower damage to start with. Next, I want to look at our skills. So the skill lineup that I am using is Flame Ward, Mana Strike, Shatter, Enchant Weapon, and Surge. In the Flame Ward tree, I focused mostly on the bottom left half. This turns it into an aura, which allows us to do kind of passive damage as we're running around. It actually hits fairly hard, especially on lower trash mobs. It'll actually clear a lot of the lesser mobs for us without having to even engage them. And then the haste buff. The haste buff on it is super nice. Grants us a lot of movement speed. We get a lot of additional attack speed. Just makes this a very strong ability, both passively and actively. And then the key talent here is going to be Frost Ward. This converts it from fire into cold, and this is important since we are stacking mostly cold damage in our gear to pump out mostly shatter damage, but as well as the Flame Ward damage as well. And then Flame Ward's Retaliation has an increased chance to freeze enemies. Freezing enemies is also important when combined with Shatter. It's also just a very strong CC that does affect elites and bosses as well. And then the other talents is just generating additional wards, because again, the wards is a very powerful mechanic for this spec. Next we have Mana Strike. Mana Strike is only used when we've depleted our mana entirely and we need to just build it up really fast. It does do a moderate amount of damage, so it doesn't actually feel bad to press, which is nice. But again, here we're focused mostly on the mana regeneration and the ward generation. When we need to regenerate mana quickly, we don't want our wards to completely fall off, or we do become susceptible to strong damage coming, especially from bosses. And then just some additional attack speed for it as well. This passive here, Spellblade, this can be pretty important if you need to regenerate mana quickly on large packs. Having a broader attack range means we get more mobs, means we can generate additional mana. Onto Shatter Strike. This is the bread and butter of the build. This is where the majority of our damage comes from. This ability is a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying this build. It has a wide range of attack, and it does proc additional projectiles and ice missiles. It's been really fun to run. Here we focus mostly on Shiver, which increases the range, the radius of this ability, which allows us to just get bigger packs of mobs and cleave them down quickly. This also has a very important cold penetration, which again just further increases the damage from this ability. We have Icy Flow here. This is also a very important passive to take, as this reduces the mana cost of this ability, allowing us to get a lot of strikes off before we even have to worry about mana regeneration. Generally, the only time I even run out of mana is on the Echo story bosses. Running through the maps and clearing monoliths right now, I just have to take a couple of swings at most mobs and they just fall over, and before I even start my next fight, my mana regeneration is high enough to top me off. And then the other passives here, which I am working up to get Chill Flame within the next 2 levels of this skill. This is going to allow us to stack Ignite procs and turn it into Frostbite. Very, very strong proc here. It increases mobs' chance to be frozen. It gives Frostbite penetration. And then Chill Flame will convert the Ignites into additional Frostbite stacks. Going to be a very strong mechanic since we are stacking cold damage, and the freezing does help with CC and damage as well. Next we have Enchant Weapon. This is mostly just an ability that kind of manages itself. It gives us a passive damage boost, and when it cycles off cooldown and activates, it just amplifies the buff that it gives us. Here I've put some talents into Immolating Strike, so it has a chance to proc Ignite when we have this slotted on our bar, which again we're trying to build Ignite stacks to generate these Chill Flame Frostbite procs. Attack speed is very important for us, not just for pumping out more damage, but it also allows us to generate wards quicker. So having this 30% attack speed whenever we activate Enchant Weapon is absolutely huge. It gives us burst and survivability at the same time. And then some of these passives is just to help pump cold damage, help to get our chill and our freezing procs off. Chill is a very strong ability or proc as well, as it lets us drop kind of a debuff underneath mobs, which reduces their movement speed, attack, and cast speed. And then Icicle Strike. This has been really fun to run. It gives your melee attacks a chance to cast out basically ice missiles for added damage procs. And then we just have 2 points in efficiency just to give us a little bit more elemental damage and make this a little bit easier to manage on mana. And the main thing we're going for here is Kindling Blade. This has actually been really nice. It basically means we don't have to manage this ability at all. It's just going to activate itself on cooldown. It's a very short cooldown as it is, so don't worry about it necessarily when it's coming up. There will be some little tips on how to manage resources around this cooldown, but this has been a really nice ability. It just keeps our damage pumped up and flowing as we clear maps. Last we have Surge. I was using Teleport just for increased movement speed and mobility. I switched out Teleport for Surge, and I like this a lot better, as Surge has added damage for us. It works similar to a Teleport in terms of giving us a little bit of mobility and it helps generate some ward stacks as well. The main ones that the main talent trees here, our passive points here is get Storm Battery and Insulation. This allows us to generate stacks of dormant energy, which increases the damage of Surge, but it also allows us so that when we do proc the dormant energy stacks when we activate Surge, it gives us additional wards as well. And further going into ward generation, when you hit any enemies with ward or with Surge, you generate wards. You gain even more wards on hit. And 3 points in Long Strider just to give us a little added mobility with this. This lets us get around the map a little bit quicker, move a little further. This can also be used in some boss fights if they're dropping, large abilities on the ground that you got to get out of or dodge. Using Surge to be able to just kind of zip around the room is a great advantage to those boss fights. Glacial Assault, this is kind of a key ability for this. This converts it from lightning damage to cold damage. Again, we're stacking as much cold damage as we can, so this just makes it so our Surge will do additional damage just from the conversion alone. And it'll change your lightning procs to frostbite stacks. The last talent that I put into this is Tidal Wave. This Tidal Wave doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage on its own, but the amount of surges that we're putting off, I mean, it's off cooldown every 3.5 seconds. It does do a lot of damage because it'll hit multiple mobs kind of across the map, so it's just an added little damage bonus. So I kind of want to show you guys a little bit of what this looks like in combat, so I'm going to start a monolith. I am now a few levels above these current monoliths, but I did start these at around level 58, I believe, so I was a little bit lower level, and there was no struggle at all. Great build for being able to clear maps quickly, kill mobs quickly, and feel relatively tanky at the same time. So on elites, if we activate our flame ward, we have our enchant weapon up, and then we just rely mostly on attack speed to clear all these mobs, surge across the map. And I do try to get bigger packs of mobs together if I can, and clear the little guys with our surge procs. But you can see how many additional ice abilities are being triggered from Shatter Strike and from Surge that allow us to just clear the majority of the map relatively quick. And here we'll need to start generating some mana, so on next pull we will activate our Mana Strike. And that's the majority of the build, guys. It's not the hardest hitting thing out there right now, but the amount of ward generation alone just kind of makes this a relaxing build while still maintaining an overall decent pace at the rate in which you kill and clear maps. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the build. I really hope you guys give Spellblade a try. I believe it is a phenomenal spec, very refreshing to see a game actually do a battle mage and do it relatively correct. It feels really good. It's visually, gives you the feel of being an actual battle mage. You have strong melee, but your abilities do actually look like they're casting spells. It just feels good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this build and what this class can do at a higher level. The last thing I wanted to go over real quick is just show you guys a little bit of what your weapons could be looking like when you get into the 50s and 60s. Since early on, there's not a lot of good sword options. When you get to, I believe it's level 52 or 54, there will be a kind of sword that starts to drop that will have melee damage and spell damage on it. And then when you reach level 64, these crystal swords will also start dropping. A lot of them have just melee damage and elemental damage and elemental melee attack speed on them. So these are very strong swords, especially if you're dual wielding. Keep a lookout for these. If you're fortunate enough to get your hands on a frozen iron, this scepter is actually very strong. It just has a lot of additional cold damage, freeze rate multiplier, and it has a chance to cast a cold nova proc, which just helps add a little bit extra fluff damage in there for us. Earlier on in your level 30s and 40s, I would keep an eye out for scepters mostly, as these do come with melee damage and spell damage as their base, making them a great weapon choice early on. And other than that, I just focus on ward retention and resist mostly, and stack as much cold damage as you can get your hands on. My gear is by far not perfect. Still learning and still gearing, but this has been a great spec. Had a lot of fun, and like I said, I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And let me know in the comments down below what builds have worked for you, and if this has helped you, and if you've enjoyed it.
The day I die.